Okay, in this video we're going to learn how to pour SDS-PAGE gels to do Western blotting. And so first thing we're going to do is we're going to get the glass plates ready. So we have up in, at least in my lab here, we've got several glass plates that all of which is purchased from Biorad. They're 1.5 millimeters thick. So what I'm going to do is there's two types of glass plates here. We have one with a spacer unit in there, so you can see it's glass and then it has on both sides essentially a spacer that'll fit between this and the other glass plate. And so first thing I'm going to do is take some 70% ethanol, spray it down. I like to do this just to make sure the glass is clean. After people run gels, what they do is hopefully they wash them with soap and water and then rinse with distilled water and then sit them here to dry. And but you never know how other people do what they should do. So the other thing is sometimes there can be dust, like a subtle stuff down on the glass, and we're going to basically form a polyacrylamide gel that is going to polymerize any dirt or materials that are in there can interfere with how solid the acrylamide is. So I'm going to spray some 70% ethanol down, and then I'm just going to basically just rinse that off with a Kim White. As you go over a couple times, make sure it's nice and dry. We do want it dry before we pour anything. And so the next thing we're going to do is going to take the gel pouring cassettes here. And what we're going to do is the side of the glass I cleaned, I'm going to put inside. So again, I cleaned, now I remember which side I picked up. The side that I cleaned you want to put inside against the glass with the spacer. And what I'm going to do is make sure it's nice and level, and we'll stick it between these two sides of this little green apparatus here. And one thing we want to do is make sure it's level. So you can see at the bottom, if it wasn't level, like you can see there, if it's not level, the liquid can leak out. So we want to make sure against the bench, make sure it's flat, move around a little bit, and then what we're going to do is close this thing here to tighten it. So now the glass is nice and stuck between the green apparatus here. And you can see if you look at the bottom, it's nice and level. And then what we're going to do is we're going to stick it in this cassette holder here. If you pull this up a little bit, you don't need to pull too hard. You just want to put this on top of that the spacer glass plate there. Okay. So we're going to do the same thing with the other glass plate. Again, the clean side internal. Take the green holder here. Make sure things are nice and level. Then push the green pieces here away from you. Make sure things are nice and level. Sometimes you may have glass pieces that have nicks in the glass. Something's broken, and that may cause the glass to leak. If it becomes a big problem, just throw it away. And so same thing, we're going to put this under here, and then open this up to be adhered under that piece there. And you can see here, basically at the bottom, we have this gray gasket here. And now everything is nice and secure. So what we're going to do in a minute is pour the acrylamide solution in there to allow it to polymerize. And so everything should be nice and free and not leaking. So I'm going to do the same thing with two other. I'm going to pour 4 gels at one time, just to save time for some future experiments. I never just pour 1 gel. Sometimes I'll do 2. We've got protocols and recipes for how much volume of things you need for gel. And I plan to run several gels in the next couple of weeks here. Okay, so just like before, the 2 clean sides of the glass, internal, stick it in the green setting there, nice and set. Okay, looks good, and I'll put it in another cassette holder there. Okay, and so what I typically do, especially with every gel is going to be 10 mils, and so if you're pouring 1 gel, a 15 mil conical tube will do. I'm pouring 4 gels, so I'm going to use a 50 mil conical tube. You can get a new one that might be up on a shelf here or in a cabinet somewhere. I often tend just to reuse the same 50 mil conical tube once I pour things out, and I just dump it once I poured everything into the cassette. Okay, so then we need to get the solutions we're going to need out of the fridge. So we have two things we're going to need. We have acrylamide, so there's a 30% acrylamide. It's a ratio of 29 to 1, acrylamide to bisacrylamide. And then we're going to need 10% ammonium persulfate. And while I'm at it, I'll show you where this is at in the lab. And so we make these solutions up ourselves. So over on the chemical shelf here, we have both. I'm going to order more acrylamide. So we've got some acrylamide from Thermo Scientific, and then this acrylamide is this long name here, the N-methyl ethylene bisacrylamide. And the ammonium persulfate, that other solution, is over here. So we make up, essentially, with the acrylamide bisacrylamide, we'll make up usually 300 or 500 mils of solution that'll last us a few months. The ammonium persulfate, or APS, will make up 5 or 10 mils. Okay. And so what we're going to do is we're going to pour 4 10% gels. So in the lab handbook is a table like this that has the amount of solutions we're going to need. And so there's two parts of these SDS-PAGE gels. One is the resolving gel, which is the main part of the gel that allows you to separate proteins based on size. So we're going to pour that first and let it polymerize. And the top part is the stacking gel, which allows you to basically, because your sample you're going to load on the gel is some volume, and you want all of your volume to basically run into the resolving part of the gel at the same time. And so the stacking gel is a lower percentage of acrylamide, so it allows time for, and also different pH of the tris, it allows time for the sample to essentially stack so that it enters the resolving part all at the same time. So you don't have like a distribution of proteins entering the resolving part of the gel at different times. Okay, so what we're going to do is make up, and using that table there, we're going to make up 10% gel, and we're going to make 4 gels. So basically I'm going to multiply everything by 4. So I'm going to go essentially one by one with these different ingredients. And so the first thing is 4.1 mils of water. So we have some water up here, just distilled water from the distilled spigot of the sink. I typically keep a pipette tip or pipette for water and tris back here, so we don't need to keep reusing it. Just not that it saves that much waste, but it's a little bit. And so this is a 10 mil. We're going to need 4.1 times 4, so 16.4. I'm going to do 8.2 mils twice. 8.2. Pipette it into the 50 mil conical tube. Okay, and then we're going to need the second thing on the list is the tris HCl. This is 1.5 molar, pH 8.8, and so this is what we're going to need. We actually have two types of tris that we use. This one on the left is for the resolving part. This is for the stacking part of the gel. And so we're going to need 2.5 mils times 4, so 10 mils total. I'm going to do 5 mils twice. The next thing is we're going to need is the acrylamide. So we're going to need 3.3 mils times 4, so I'm going to do 6.6 mils twice. So I'm just using a 5 mil pipette. I'll go up, that's 5, 6.6. Stick this back here. I'm going to reuse this to actually pour the gel. Next thing on the list is SDS. So we have a bottle of filtered 10% SDS, and we're going to need 100 mils times 4, or 400 mils. Our P200 is set to 200, so I'm going to do 200 microliters twice. Okay. Next thing on the list is ammonium persulfate, or APS. That's this 15 mil conical tube that's kept in the fridge, usually next to the acrylamide solution. We're also going to need 100 microliters times 4, so 200 microliters twice. And the last thing on the list is this temid, or TEMED. That's kept up on the shelf above where we pour the gels. So TEMED along with APS or ammonium persulfate, those two ingredients are essential for the polymerization to take place. If you're missing either one, or one of them has gone bad, and sometimes it happens with time, nothing will polymerize. And so we need 10 microliters times 4, so 40 microliters. Let's see if I've got the P100. Let's do the P100, just set it to 40. This kind of is a fishy type of odor. So you know what it is. TEMED has a bad smell. So what we're going to do is mix it back and forth. Make sure everything's mixed up. And then take the lid off. And I'm going to pipette. What I typically do, we made essentially 10 mils for each gel. We only need about 8 mils, and so we'll have some extra solution. What I typically do is, I'm pouring 4 of them. I just go up to 5 mils at first. I'll do all 4. This allows, if something's leaking, like you'll see buffer run underneath it, and so sometimes if you see a little bit leaking, you can then fix the glass real quick and maybe lose very little of the solution you're pouring. That's one advantage of only doing a part of the 8 mils at one time. And so I'm going to pull up about 6 mils. And basically fill up to about where you see the green behind the solution. What you're filling up hits the green line. It's just under 3 mils, not quite 3 mils. Pretty close though. And we'll do that for the other 2 gels. Close that lid. Now the polymerization will not work efficiently if you have the oxygen in the air inhibits that. So to block it, what we'll do is I'm going to spray some 70% ethanol on top of the acrylamide solution. Now this is less dense than the acrylamide solution, so it'll actually settle on top, and so it won't actually mix with the acrylamide. You can't really see that until the polymerization takes place. And I just basically fill up all or most of the way up until the front glass plate. Just kind of spray back and forth. Okay. And so one thing we could do to watch it polymerize is stick this into another tube. I'm just going to, for the purpose of today, I'm going to take a 5 ml tube and pour some of the acrylamide in there. Like what I said I like to do is I often reuse the same tube. Just not that it's that much waste you're saving, but a little bit. So what I'll do is pour that into there. And what will happen is once this is polymerized in this tube, we now know the gels are polymerized, and so then we're ready that we can pour the stacking part of the gel. So that's essentially it for what we're going to do in this first step of pouring gels. The next step will be to pour the stacking part of the gel once this is polymerized. That can take 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Sometimes it depends on how fresh the ammonium persulfate and TEMED are. If one of these has gone bad, the polymerization may not take place efficiently, or if you're missing one of them, it won't take place at all. And again, usually 10 to 30 minutes or so, and we'll come back and look at this in a little bit.